This concludes opening statements of our panelists, and now we'll move into the question and answer portion of the hearing today. And so I want to start out with Director Ray. I want to thank you for being here, sharing the insights, and as a Director of North Carolina Emergency Management. And, you have many responsibilities, including coordinating the response and recovery to energy disruptions like we saw in December and energy blackouts. Were the lessons learned from the substation attack in December or aspects of the response and recovery that went well that we can take back with us to Washington?
Thank you for that question. And for your earlier introduction, I'll take the field promotion to doctor. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I really, truly can't overstate the partnership piece. And one thing that I did not expand upon in
Pull that mic just a little bit closer. There's a lot of folks in here, and I want to make sure the TV and everybody can hear.
So. Better. We have a long-standing practice here in North Carolina of blue sky partnership with all of the partners across the electric sector, to include Duke Energy as well as Dominion and the co-ops and some of our municipal providers. That's something that needs to continue to be incentivized, and that we have the latitude and ability to continue to do that. Here in North Carolina, the way we're structured from an emergency preparedness, response, and recovery standpoint, as you all know, everything begins and ends locally. This community is there responding to the incident well before we get there, and they will continue to deal with the impact of the incident well after anyone from the state leaves. I think that structure here in North Carolina, our ability to surge resources, whether it's people or equipment, into impacted jurisdictions, and having the authority to continue to do that, I think is going to continue to be key. The other piece of the lesson learned, I think, is some of what I spoke about in my statement. I think to what would help continue to facilitate our ability to respond decisively to support our local jurisdictions is appropriate funding levels and flexibility to meet that expanding need as we talk about a very complex issue broadly of critical infrastructure protection. And then secondly, that we have the protections in place to be able to open and transparently talk with private sector partners at large about impacts they're seeing, as well as to be able to transfer and translate information from what is historically law enforcement into our private sector, obviously putting appropriate protections in place for tactics, methods, et cetera, but that we're able to provide actionable information to our local jurisdictions and our private sector partners to take appropriate steps.
Thank you for that. And I think the most valuable thing is just forward thinking, trying to anticipate these type of events before they do happen and how we can do that. But great answer. Ms. Dysta, I don't believe there was a one-size-fits-all approach to harden the grid or electrical substations. We talked about that a little bit this morning. You mentioned in your written testimony that Duke is switching from a tiered ranking system focused largely on an asset's impact of bulk power system to a tiered approach with a greater focus on potential impacts to customers. Can you explain why this new approach is better, and what does it mean in practice?
Yeah, Chair Duncan, thank you for that question. Every substation is unique. It's unique in its location, in its design, in its topography, and the customers it served. So this starts with tiering these substations with both their criticality to the bulk electric system, but also to those where there's customer impact. When I say customer impact, we're talking about those substations where we can't reroute power. So if there's a substation and it is taken out of service by a tornado or a hurricane or a threat actor, and we can field switch that power and the customers feel no impact, that is not a substation that we're going to focus on. We are going to focus on those substations like what you saw at West End this morning, where we cannot switch power. We have to use—
You say switch, you're just talking about rerouting so there's no interruption.
Yes, sir. Correct. We cannot reroute power. So the customers don't care what route, what circuit their electricity comes on. They just want their lights on. So we start with having an intelligence-driven program. That is understanding what is the threat. Who are the threat actors? Why do they want to hurt the grid? What are their tactics, their techniques, and their procedures? Why? What is their level of maturity? And by understanding that, now we can start implementing controls on those bulk electric system assets and those assets where there is customer vulnerability. And we do that by utilizing a philosophy called defense in depth. You may have heard of defense in depth in the cyber security world. Well, we have the same thing in the physical security world, which is a series of overlapping security controls that allow us to have earlier detection of a threat actor, decrease our response time, and allow a quicker law enforcement response to be able to mitigate the attack. We talked about in West End today that that was a very sophisticated attack.
Thank you for that. I'm going to go over time just a little bit, but according to the Energy Information Administration's website, it contains a tremendous amount of information about sensitive information, maps identifying locations of power plants and power lines. I don't want to give the bad guys a roadmap to attack our grid. Are you concerned about the amount of information that might be out there? And quickly, please, Mr. Eista.
Yes, sir. It is, we are concerned. It's not only on that website, but there are also other websites that threat actors have used to identify targets to
Are
attack.
y'all starting to remove that data from your website? Is Duke Energy addressing that? I'm sure we're going to be talking to the Energy Administration about that as well.
We do not have that level of data on our Duke Energy
Okay.
website.
Good. All right. Thank you. I now recognize my friend from North